Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking. If you follow my channel for a while, or whatever, maybe you know this about me, maybe you don't, but I am a huge fantasy game theme guy. I probably has a lot to do with the fact that I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for about 4 decades. Yes, I am old. But for me, it's one of those things where it hits on cylinders. It's my wheelhouse, if you will, when it comes to themes. And so when I get games presented to me that are of that theme, I'm usually like, okay, let's check this out. I want to see. Now, that doesn't mean that fantasy games can't be bad. I've definitely played a few that were not my cup of tea. But I was really intrigued by Miremarsh, and it turned out to be a really fun game. This is a game where each person gets to play a goblin. And it is actually you'll play probably more than one goblin because your goblins are going to die, but I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But each of you is playing a goblin, and you are attempting to, I don't know, like, become, like, the best goblin and whatever, like the most brave, the most sneaky, the most clever, the most backstabby, you know, just goblin stuff. What makes a goblin cool? What makes a goblin neat? It's their devious, cruel nature or whatever. They've been a favorite, even high level opponent for me whenever I play D&D. I just always kind of love their like evil, crusty demeanor, if you will. Miremarsh is basically this proving grounds for these goblins. They're going to go out into this marsh. They're going to deal with monsters. They're going to deal with quests. They're going to collect bones and eat fish and all kinds of crazy goblin things. And hopefully, either they will be the best goblin. They'll complete a big major quest. Maybe they will go and they will kidnap the local lord. Maybe they will assassinate the current goblin king. Whatever. There's several of these different quests, and if you're the first goblin to succeed at one of them, you will prove that you are the best goblin. Also, you could just be the last goblin left alive, in which case then you kind of win, because you're still alive and the rest of your fellows aren't. But anyway, let me show you how this is played. As I said, this is right in my wheelhouse. I had a lot of fun playing this. My family had a lot of fun playing this. Let me show how it's played, and then we'll come back here and I'll talk a little bit more about why this clicked so well for us. It's been raining like crazy here in Minnesota for the last few days, so I'm lucky enough to have some natural light piping in, so awesome. I don't have to use my big lighting for this particular thing. But anyway, regardless, that's why you see kind of like the natural sun coming in. But you're not here to talk about the weather in Minnesota. You're here to talk about Miremarsh. So I have gone ahead and set up the game. The setup for the game is pretty straightforward. Each one of these locations, I'm just going to pick up this tile without showing it to you. There's going to be a number underneath that. You're going to have these tiles, and you're going to randomly place them in these locations. These locations here on the edges, the ones that are turned over, they are the location of these, the number 4. These are the end game tiles. You win the game by completing one of these 4 quests, or by being the last goblin left alive. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So that's why you have those 4. Now you have lots of these tiles. So like you have a bunch of tiles, not just these 4s. They have 2s, they have 1s. You have a bunch of these tiles that you aren't going to use. So, you know, as they say, like those buzzwords, replayability. So you're going to have situations where you can't just expect certain tiles to be available in each and every game. So it is going to be a random setup that the board's going to have each time. All right, so to begin the game, depending upon the number of players, you're going to have a certain number of these goblin cards to draw from. Basically, the reason for that is that each person is going to get a goblin that they're going to start off with. Like here, this is Skulker. And like each goblin card will give you, they'll tell you if you start with any equipment. So like he starts with this gold and he starts with that rope. He has, and then the number of dice. So he's going to start with 3 green dice and 1 white die. And you can see the pile of dice over there, which I'll show you here in just a second. But and also like a little thing that they have that allows them to break the rules. So he gets +1 foot for challenges on the secret paths, because that's what Skulker is able to do. You're going to get one of these to start with. And then there's going to be others in a pile. The reason why they're in a pile is that you're going to have goblins die in this game. You're probably going to go through one or more goblins during the game. And after the pile is gone and you die, then unfortunately you are not allowed to play anymore and you're out. So if you're the last goblin left alive and everybody else has lost out, then you win the game. Now, you could have one person go through 3 or 4 of these. It isn't like each get 2 or anything like that. So just keep that in mind, that if somebody has some bad luck, they're gonna, definitely speed the game possibly towards its end. But let's just say, let me just grab a guy here. So here we have Spooker, and it says, he's got 5 dice. He doesn't get any equipment, so that's probably why he has 5 dice. He gets 2 green, 2 white, and 1 blue. And then it says, special rules: other goblins must spend an extra foot to enter your location apart from the Warrens. And you might have guessed, the Warrens is this spot in the middle, and the Warrens is like kind of your home base. So I'm just going to grab a few goblins. I'm not going to really go through a full game, but let's just say we're playing a 5-player game, and so we have 5 goblins ready to go and in that central area, and we're going to play Spooker. So the way the game works is that you're going to be moving from spot to spot. You're going to encounter challenges on those locations. You're going to defeat those challenges, hopefully, without dying, because if you fail at anything, you die. The Miremarsh is a very dangerous spot that is, it's trying to kill you. So, if you succeed at the challenges, then you will gain rewards, which will be money, there'll be bones, there'll be equipment, things like that. And hopefully you're able to build up your goblin, leveling them up, so that they're able to eventually take on one of these big challenges in the corners and able to win the game. Now, along the way, and this is the other thing, so a lot of people might say right now, if you're thinking about the game, it's like, well, what's to stop me from just kind of, not doing much? What's to stop me from, just playing it safe, let the other people die, and then I win the game that way? Well, the reason for that is that you can't do that, is that you have these fish. And the fish are your food. You start with 9 of these fish, and at the end of each turn, you have to get rid of one of these. Basically, it's like you just went through a big giant struggle to get done with the challenge that you did, and you need to recover some strength. So you need to eat, one of these slimy, fresh fish. Because you're a goblin. You don't worry about, cooking nice food or anything like that. You're just going to eat this little fishy guy. If you have to eat fish and you don't have any, you're done. You're out of the game. So it has one of those things where it's like you need to speed things up, and you need to make sure you are, trying to get towards the end and trying to succeed as fast as possible. All right. So, as I said, we're going to play Spooker. We'll just put them down here. And like I said, we have 2 green, 2 white, and a blue. So let's just grab those dice. And 2 white. So I'm going to take some time to kind of show you these dice. And, I love dice games, and I do like good quality dice. Now, admittedly, this is a prototype that I was sent, but I think these dice are very close to, if not, the level that we're looking for. These are pretty indicative of what's going to be in the game. But the dice have several different icons depending upon the color, and then you're going to see the blue has these 2 blank spots, but they have this guy, which I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit, because that's the monster of the swamp monster. But it has these, you notice that on 3 of these sides we got these stars, and the stars are wild, so they can be used to do anything. Now, if you look at these green dice, we got some swords, we got some feet, we've got a thing where you can use an eyeball or a foot. The eyeball is a spying action where you can secretly pick up a tile that hasn't been looked at, and look at it to see what's there, and then put it back down, so decide if you want to go there or not. And then in here we have the white die. It has these 2 feet where they can go. And I should mention right now, before we get any further, and let me grab a black die, because the black die is kind of like the combat die. But let me just before we get any further, anything that has a double value on it, see, there's the 2 feet on there. Here's this black die that has the 2 swords for attacks. anything that has a double on it, you can't save them because you're going to be using up what you rolled on the dice as your resources, so to speak. But if you say you were in a fight and you needed a one dagger to defeat the thing that you were fighting, and you rolled this, you couldn't use one and then save one. It just goes to waste. The same goes for a movement die, like so. So things like that you have to worry about. All right, so I mentioned that I wanted to talk about, and on this I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I just want to mention this. So I wanted to talk about this, the little swamp tentacle monster guy here. So when you roll one of those, what happens is that at first, the swamp monster guy, and these will be miniatures, I should mention. I have these standees, but in the game that's being published, these will all be miniatures. But when you're going to place one of these on any location, discovered or undiscovered, that's got a 2 on it. You're going to place this. And then, following that, anytime anybody rolls one of these tentacles, they're able to move the swamp monster. And they could move it onto another goblin if they so desire. Hopefully, they would pull that off. If they do that, the goblin either needs to be able to successfully run away from the monster before they can do their turn when they next move, or defeat it. If it gets defeated, it goes back off the table until somebody rolls the tentacle, and then it comes back. Because there's lots of swamp monsters. Or you're just slicing off one of its tentacles, and then it runs away for a little while. But anyway, so let's actually roll the dice, and I can show you how this works. Now the big thing is that you have to be able to roll. You have to be able to roll 1 foot. If you don't get 1 foot when you roll at the beginning of your turn, you're allowed to re-roll. So let me just roll these. Not a lot of room so you can see these. Oh, one other thing I want to mention. You have 2 spots down here that allow you to take and add items. Items will allow you to basically level up and add a die to your character. So if you if you wanted to, here's those those piles of rope I was talking about. Here is this dagger, so you have these daggers, so and these correspond with the colors of the dice, and so you'll just add those to the dice that you roll as long as you have that equipment. Notice that you only have space for 2 of them. So if you get another piece of equipment, you can swap them out and use a different die. But anyway, so let's roll these dice. Let's see what we get for Spooker here, and let's see what happens. So, that was a horrible roll. Oh my gosh, that is hideous. But it's not that bad, actually, because of the fact that we didn't get anything we could monkey with, but we do have something that allows us to move. Now, you might be saying, well, yeah, but he's not going to be able to do anything when he gets there. But no, you get to re-roll the other dice that you don't move. So we're going to take this one green die, we're going to set it aside because we've used that die. We're going to take Spooker, and let's move him down here to this one. I have no idea what this is. So then we're going to flip this over, and it says here, the bog. It's a trap. So in order for me to succeed, I need to either have 2 feet, or I need 2 feet and an eyeball, and if I do this one and I succeed at it, I'm going to be able to take any piece of equipment I want if I can actually get that result. So I'm going to flip that over, and now I get to take the remaining dice that I have, and I'm going to hope that I roll at least 2 feet, because that's the thing I desperately need in order to win. So let's see here. And I didn't actually do it. Oh, I can't believe it. Well, that actually happens kind of often. This game, in a lot of ways, it reminds me of a little bit of Dungeon Quest, if you ever played that game, where you can have bad luck right away. Now, I'm going to cheat here in just a little bit, and I'm going to actually, I'm going to find, the double foot. Let's say I rolled this. And I'm going to cheat a little bit. And actually, you notice I actually have that eyeball or whatever. But, so, if I wanted to, I'd be able to spend both of those dice, and I'd be able to go ahead and claim a reward. And so, in this case, I want to take, a sword. So, or a dagger or whatever. And so, in the future, I'm going to have a black die that I'd be able to roll. Now, here's a variant rule, and we played by this just because we thought it was fun. So after your turn's done, it's kind of like that push your luck attitude. Oh, you want to go again? Now, after your turn's done, if you say, I'm done, I'm not going to do anything else, the other players can, at that moment, tell you, well, hey, come on. They can what's called bribe you into pushing your luck, into trying to roll more dice, trying to do something else. And that can be anything. They can offer you equipment, they can offer you pets that they've got, they can offer you gold or whatever, and you can take them up on it and continue to roll. Now, in this situation, I probably wouldn't roll, obviously, because I'm rolling horribly right now, but that's an option. Now, I wanted to show you some of the other locations that you can get. And I want to move these guys out of the way just so you can kind of see what's going on. Two things. There are these three spots here. In the Warren and the Troll Shaman and the Abandoned Wishing Well, all of those are places where you can do trades in some way. So, like here at the Abandoned Wishing Well, you can spend 2 gold coins and you can get any piece of equipment. You can spend 5 gold coins and you can get a spell. Here you can spend 3 gold coins and get equipment, 2 gold coins and get a pet. You can trade in a piece of equipment for 2 gold coins, or you can trade in a bone, and you get bones as rewards for some quests, or some places that you go to. You can trade in a bone and get 2 gold coins. And over here at the Troll Shaman, you can trade in 3 coins and get a map. You can trade in 3 coins and get a rope, or you can trade in bones for 3 coins. And those are just places, obviously, that you can go. You also might have seen, like this little trail here. There's none, the dice are kind of blocking that one, but you can see this trail over here. And you can see, these trails here and here. Those are secret paths that allow you to go from those, but you have to, if you declare that you're going to be taking the path, you have to have the right iconography. So like here's 2 feet, here's a foot and an eyeball, over here's a foot and an eyeball, here's 2 feet. Just like before, if you said that's the route that I want to take, you could take these 2 dice and say, and you could roll, and then like if you got what you needed, then you could go. But you could also get killed if you say I'm going to take that roll. So in this case, I would get killed because even though this is a wild, like I would have needed something like that if I could say I have 2 feet, and so I'd be able to take that. So yes, you can make those moves and get to those locations. But, you are taking a chance by doing so. Alright, so a couple other things I want to show you. I definitely want to show you layers. And hopefully I have one. I'm just going to kind of turn these over until I find one here. So, okay, so here it is. There's the mossy track. Now here you have a situation where if you are able to trade in 2 feet and a sword, you can get a gold coin. But before you do that, you have to see it's level 1. And that's what these like shields here are for. We're going to take one of these. This is going to be a monster that we're going to place there. And so in this case, it is the giant slug. And so this whenever you see a background that is white, that is a mandatory check. You can't not do it. If you have checks that look like this, like where they don't have that white background, you have the option to do that if you want to. So you place this over the top like that, and so if I had just moved there like on my next turn, now I'm going to be fighting the giant slug. What I have, and I don't forget, I got my black die, so I'm going to add that to my dice because I have my weapon. We're going to take this, and all we need is 1 foot because it's a slug. It's slow, and we'll be okay. So let's for the let's say I used one of my white dice. That was my foot. That's how I got to this location. So I have these dice left over. And so, a couple interesting things. I rolled a tentacle. So I would have to, at this point, let's just say like let me turn over. Maybe I'm going to turn these guys over. Maybe one of my hapless opponents is in that location, and I'm going to say, haha, that is a level 2 spot, and you're going to have to deal with the monster who just made there. So I'm going to have that, and it looks like I actually rolled 2, so if I wanted to, he can move him up, but I'm not going to. So now I have a situation where I need a foot, and if I have a foot, I can get rid of a foot to say that I'm, like I got past the compulsory thing, and now I can spend a dagger that allows me to get a gold coin because of the combat in there. I do have the option, however, after I've spent that foot and I have these 2 dice left over, I can re-roll before I do that second option. Notice I have this one. I don't have the option to save this one and re-roll this in the hopes that I can get it. Now I can look at my dice and see that, like, well, there's like really no way I'm going to get 3 daggers on my 2 dice that I have left. So I can just take that and go through it, and then I'll say I'm done because I don't have enough. Now, if, you know, I've had, like, you know, this result, and I said, okay, there's my dagger, I defeat that one, there's 2 daggers, and you defeat actually slay the giant slug. You take the giant slug off, you get rid of it, and now, since he's been defeated, in this case, I would get a bone, which I would then be able to use to if I brought it back to get gold. Also, this spot now would be considered a safe spot to be in because there's no such compulsory action that you have to take in that particular spot, because anybody who goes here now in the future would be able to, if they land here, to spend 2 feet and a dagger to be able to get a gold coin. Also, if say you were in the Warrens and you had a 2-foot result, well, let me find it, of course, on this die. If you got a 2-foot result and you had that, you'd be able to go like 1-2 because the first spot is safe. There's no compulsory action that you have to do in that location. I should mention that even if, like, you had beaten the bog, like, 5 times, you've been through that spot over and over again, doesn't matter. Anytime you go back in a spot that you have left and you're coming back to, if there is a compulsory test that you have to take, you have to take that test. That's where these secret passageways and things like that come in handy a great deal if you're trying to make your way around the board. Because remember, you're running out of fish at the end of each one of your rounds, and you are in a situation there where time is not on your side. Alright, so the last thing I just want to show you, I want to show you pets and spells. When you gain a pet or a spell, like here you have this pets deck. Pets are going to just give you, here's like a captured imp, gives you +1 of those. And so there's sick dogs, +1 foot, +1 eye, and so on and so forth. These are, they're just going to allow you to break the rules slightly. Like I like this one. The Corpse Maggot gives you +1 dagger. Notice these aren't dice. These are just results. +1 dagger per bone that you currently have. So, like, if you have a bunch of bones, you have a bunch of daggers that you could use. And the neat thing about having these 4 ending quests available to you is that you can, as the game progresses, and as your goblin gains more equipment, gains more power, gains more pets, gains more spells, you begin to realize what you are going to be good at, and you can actually, like, curtail your decision. I should also mention that these, this is horror. Steal a baby! Anybody remember that, like, what is it, Kobold Still My Baby game? I remember that was like an old game that I remember seeing in the game store shelves a long time. Notice how this one is like all feet, but it's all compulsory. So if you go here to do this, it's you gotta get 2 feet, you gotta get 2 feet, and you gotta get 1 foot. Notice, if you fail at any of those, you are immediately killed. The goblin is killed, and you likely, if towards the end of the game, you might be, you might be out completely, depending upon if there's something to, replenish you and start over with a new goblin. So once again, spells. If you buy these are just abilities, and these both spells and pets can be used once per turn. So you just make sure that you aren't you can turn them sideways to show that you've used them, so you know that you can't use them over and over again. They're just certain about. So here's +1 gold at the start of each turn. Treat any eyeball rolled as a wild. Slimy, you once per turn move the swamp creature. Shifty, you can ignore traps, and so on and so forth. So once again, just a way that you can kind of break the rules or give yourself a little bit of a bonus. One last thing, and because I did actually show, I've showed you traps, I've showed you layers, I've showed you the end results. Here, let me see if I can find There's another layer. Actually, let me show you some more monsters here real quick. So, like, there's, like, tons of these guys, which is also, you never know what you're going to get. So, here's a monstrous spider. They think that's mulch crawlers. Here you have a coiling python. So, I mean, the stuff that you run into is very evocative of the theme, of the Marsh theme you have. But some of these places are just encounter locations. So, here's, like, another shop, basically, that you can go to where... you spend 2 eyeballs and you can get an equipment. So there's and I should also you have to go in order of these things. So if you wanted to get to this spot where you wanted to get 5 gold for these 2, you'd have to do 2 eyeballs for that. You spend a foot and then this to get that. So. You can't just skip and decide. The only time you can skip is when you have a tile that has an ore on there, like so. Alright, so there you go. I mean, that's Miremarsh. The best part about it for me is the theme. I like playing the goblins. I like being these like little squeaky little creatures trying to run away. I love like the secretiveness of the board, like where you don't really know what's going on. I mean, you can, like I said, you can use those eyeball results to spy and look at a tile that you're next to, or you can look at the monster tiles as well to kind of see maybe what you're going to be facing if you run into a monster. So you have those options. So even if you if the entire board is kind of found, you're still able to. Having a spy result is actually kind of useful, and obviously they can be used for the other things that are out here as well. The only other thing I haven't mentioned, I'm glad I remembered it now, is that if your goblin dies and then you're going to start over, or even if you're not starting over, you have to disperse their equipment. You don't drop any of your fish. Your fish stay with you to be passed on to your next goblin. But I'm just going to grab a few little chits here. So let's say you have some equipment, you have some gold, and whatever. When you die, you have to place them. So let's say we went here and we got killed by the giant slug. We died. So what you do is you put your equipment, like so. You're going to put your equipment, one in the spot you are, and then you're going to start in any, start and then place your other equipment in the spots next to you. And if I had more, let me just grab a couple more here. So if I had more, we would keep going, but we would double up in some spots as we're placing that excess equipment. So just so you know, your stuff does go on there, and then if another goblin shows up in that spot, as soon as they are considered safe, meaning that they've either completed the compulsory challenges or they're done, they're good to go, they have nothing else they have to do, they can collect the stuff that has been left behind by the other dead goblins. There you go. That's Miremarsh. It's a lot of fun, but let me talk about why it's fun in my final thoughts. Miremarsh! Alright, so you should have a good idea of how that is played. And it's nuts and bolts. Yes, you could have probably made this about any theme. I've said this in lots of videos, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, if it was pirates, or if it was space, or if it was trains, or whatever, the bottom line here with this, it's a roll the dice and push your luck type of situation. And more importantly to me, it is a leveling up game. As the game starts, as you saw with my poor roll right away, and I would have died on the first turn, you start off and you are weak. You can't really take chances. You gotta hope those dice bounce the way that they have to bounce for you to be able to succeed. But as the game progresses, you will gain spells, you will gain pets, you will get equipment. You will slowly build this goblin up. Not so much because they get stronger or tougher, but they're just going to get more tricks and traps at their disposal that they will slowly become kind of a minor force to be reckoned with. So you will then be able to brave further and further into the swamp until you're able then to attempt one of those quests. Now, I like level up games. One of the classic level up games of all time is like Talisman. And in a weird way, this kind of has some Talisman basis to it. You're rolling some dice, the dice determine where you move, and then you are like going to a spot and you're turning it over and you're discovering what you have to deal with when you get to that spot. Later on, those areas are revealed to you, and then you might be coming back and you're plotting your movement through places that you've already been, knowing the challenges you face, since you maybe have a better idea of what's going on, but still you have situations where there is the unknown. And I like games with unknown. I like games with like I said, a reveal moments. I've said that so many times in videos. There's something about like turning a card over. There's something about flipping a tile over. There's something about, wondering what's beneath that, that you can do it. Now, there isn't a ton of player interactivity. The goblins kind of keep to themselves, which is fine. I think if the goblins were like also able to run up and beat each other up, that's all the game would turn into. It would be, in my opinion, probably a lot easier to run over to a goblin who's standing there and waiting on your turn and do something nasty and foul to them, instead of actually trying to explore and do something. And then like slowly kill off all the goblins and you're the last one alive. I mean, there's probably a good game there somewhere if somebody wanted to create like, goblins beating each other senseless, but that's not what this game is. This game is about, trying to achieve that super awesome quest. Now, there is enough interactivity, in my opinion, that there is enough going on. There is the fact that you can spy on the tiles, and then you could maybe lie or be disingenuous when it comes to telling people what's beneath those. The swamp creature can move, and you can move that around and have it affect other people. Also, like I said, there's the variant with the bribing, which I think adds a lot to it. Like, come on, one more roll. I'll give you a gold if you want to do one more roll. That also encourages table talk, encourages people to be, interactive with each other, encourages people to be, like cheering against people, cheering for people, that sort of thing. And ultimately, what's a game? Games can be awesome, but in my opinion, games are the like gateway to having people sitting at a table, putting their phones away, and actually enjoying each other in like a human experience type of situation, which is like something I like to champion as far as like why I game. That's why I play board games, is because, yes, the game itself has fun elements to it, but it is the thing that creates the interaction that I'm more interested in. And I like games where it creates the interaction. It gets the people talking. It gets people watching the dice clatter. It gets people excited, especially when your goblin is like, that's it, I'm going for the win, right? And you're going to, and everybody's like looking right there, looking at the dice, watching them clatter onto the table, and like, just like, I hope he doesn't get it. I hope his goblin dies at the last second. And you're like, and when he does, you're like, yeah! Death to spooky goblin, and then you can hopefully be the last one alive, and then you can pull off the win. So if you like kind of a push your luck atmosphere, you can mitigate your luck pretty well. So I should caveat that a little bit. But if you like that atmosphere, if you like a fantasy theme, if you like kind of being the bad, spooky, like clever, sneaky, backstabby goblin people, then yeah, check out Miremarsh. It's funded on Kickstarter. It looks like it's going to be amazing when the final thing comes out, and I'm definitely backing it and definitely getting my own copy. So there you go. If you have any questions about Miremarsh, ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. Until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, hoping you're having an absolutely awesome day and continue to do so. Until then.